Assalamu alaikum. We have been discussing the topic of Hajj, and we've gone into it quite a lot. We've looked at the history of the Kaaba, we looked at the history of Hajj from the Old Testament, we looked at the philosophy of Hajj, and this is our, I think, fourth lesson just on Hajj. And today, what I want to do is bring together all the verses in the Holy Quran about Hajj. And what you can do is you can look at them, and what I always request people to do is to think about the message that these verses are giving us. These broadcasts are brought to you by the Lahore FDA community, which was created by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, and we believe that no prophet can come after the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not an old prophet, not a new. And Hazrat Sahab's claim was written with the consensus of the whole community on its tombstone, and it said, Jaddad of the 14th century, promised Messiah. We believe that the Holy Quran is complete and perfect. No verse of the Holy Quran is missing from it. People believe that Ayat Rajab is missing from the Holy Quran. People believe that Surah Ayat is missing from the Holy Quran. Similarly, we do not believe that any verse of the Holy Quran is abrogated. People believe many verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. Even Hazrat Shah Waliullah Rahmatullah Alayhi believe that 7 verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib refuted this. He said no verse of the Holy Quran was, is, or ever shall be. And Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ali conclusively proved that by arguing this point in his book, The Religion of Islam. Let us now go to the verses of the Holy Quran where Hajj is mentioned. You will notice that in some places Hajj is mentioned together with other things. And the first occurrence we find is in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is chapter 2, in verse 124. And it says, and when Allah made the house a resort for men and a place of sleep, and take ye the place of Ibrahim alayhi salam for a place of prayer. We enjoined Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salam, saying, purify my house for those who visit it and those who live in it for devotion, and those who bow down and those who prostrate. And then the Holy Quran carries on In the same way, Ibrahim replied, make this a secure town, the God was, and provide its people with fruits, such of them as believe in Allah and the last day. And then there is further to Ibrahim and the rejected. But later on, the chapter, verses later, talks about people goes about the Lord, and then it says the Safa and the Marwa are truly among the signs of God. So whoever makes a pilgrimage to the house or pays a visit to it, there is no blame on him if he goes wrong. And whoever does spontaneously, surely Allah is bound to it. Notice the fact that pilgrimage and doing previously also when the Hajj was talked about at the very beginning, it was those who bow and prostrate. And then we're not discussing what happens with people who find the clothes and so on. Then it's the end of Al-Baqarah. And again, they ask you for the news. Tell them there are times appointed for men and for the pilgrim. And it is not righteousness. And it is not righteousness that you enter the house, to enter the houses by their backs. He is righteous who keeps his duty. And go into the houses by their door. And keep your duty to Allah that you may be successful. So you can see that pilgrimage is always linked to other things. Sorry, the technicians were waving their hands for some reason. So, and they ask you about new moons. So this is how you determine the time of Hajj and so on. And they're the times appointed for men and for pilgrimage. But then it goes on and it says, righteous is the person who keeps his duty. There is a link there made between spying on people and seeking fault and keeping your duty. You can see every time Hajj is mentioned, it's linked to some good deed or some deed that is to be avoided. It's not righteousness that you enter the houses by their backs. So don't spy on people. Righteous is the person who keeps his duty. And this is mentioned because people have this habit of snooping on each other. Oh, he's done this, he's done that. There is this, his neighbors across the road for some reason. And it was winter time, I think. And he was sitting out in the front yard and he was sunning himself and sitting on a low stool and reciting the Holy Quran. And his wife was also sitting there, and there was a little coal fire in between them. And she made him some tea on that coal fire. And she handed it to him. And he took the cup of tea, and it was very hot. And because it was hot, he let go of it, and it fell in his lap. And he suddenly got up, and the Holy Quran fell on the coal fire. A lady from across the road was watching this, snooping, forbidden by the Holy Quran. And she sent a boy running to the mosque saying, "The doctor is burning the Holy Quran." And people came running and they beat him. They tied his legs to the back of a motorbike and dragged him through the streets. His little son was interviewed on television, who said, I begged them, you're hurting my dad, please stop. I folded my hands and I touched their feet. Please don't hurt my dad. And they didn't stop. This is an extreme result of snooping on people. And then towards the end of the second chapter, Al-Baqarah, there are 3 or 4 verses specifically about Hajj. 196, accomplish the pilgrimage and visit for Allah. But if prevented, whatever offering is easy to obtain, and shave not your heads until the offering reaches its destination. So, people who go for pilgrimage shave their heads. Ladies cut a lock of their hair off. They don't actually shave the whole head. Then whoever among you is sick or has an ailment of the head, he may effect a compensation by fasting or alms or sacrificing. See, Islam always allows flexibility. That there are human beings, well, they may have problems. Okay, how can they compensate for them? And when you secure, whoever profits by combining the visit with pilgrimage, whatever offering is easy to obtain. But he who can't find an offering should fast for 3 days during the pilgrimage and 7 when you return. You see, again, flexibility. If you can't do this, do that. If you can't say your Zohar prayer on time, combine it with Asr. If you're on a journey, say your prayer while you're moving. Halve it. If it's 4 rakahs, say 2 rakahs. These are 10 days complete. This is for him whose family is not present in the sacred mosque. Keep your duty to Allah. And then it talks about months of pilgrimage. And then it gives conditions which people frequently do not observe. There shall be no immodest speech, no abuse, no altercation in the pilgrimage. And you see people pushing each other, shoving each other because they want to get close to the black stone. And yet the Quran is telling them no altercation. Whatever good you do, Allah knows it. And make provision for yourselves. The best provision being to keep one's duty. Now, people take this, they say, make provision for yourselves, and they start saving money to go to Hajj. In the days of old, when you had to travel by horses and camels and so on, sometimes it would take 3 months to get to Hajj and 3 months to get back. So you had to save up all your life. Or if you had a family, you had to leave something for them to fend for themselves for 6 months and so on, which is quite right. Save money. But also, the best provision is to keep one's duty. So when you're preparing for Hajj from day one, what you've got to do is to keep your duty to go, not lie, not cheat. This goes back to the first lesson about Hajj, where I mentioned the fact that people say, well, it's okay, I'm lying, I'm cheating, I'm being dishonest, but what will happen is that I'll go to Hajj and I'll ask for forgiveness and everything will be forgiven. What does that say? Best provision is to keep your duty. So if you're preparing for Hajj, start off by purifying yourself. It is no sin for you that you seek the bounty of your Lord. So when you press on from Arafat, remember Allah near the holy mountain. Remember Him as He guided you. Hasten on from people. Hasten on from where the people hasten on. Again, ask forgiveness. When you perform devotions, praise Allah, Lord your fathers, rather a more hearty Lord. There are some people who say, "O Lord, give us in the world," and for such there is no portion in the hereafter. Basically, you get what you ask. And there are some who say, "Our Lord, grant us in this world and in the hereafter, and save us from the chastisement of the Father." For those, there is a portion on account of what they have earned. Remember Allah during the appointed days. Then whosoever hastens off in 2 days, it is no sin for him. Whoever stays behind, it is no sin for him. For anyone who keeps his duty, keep your duty, keep your duty, keep your duty. Recurring theme of the Holy Quran. Then in chapter 3, certainly the first house appointed for men is the one at Makkah. If you think back to the lesson about the history of Makkah, you will find from the Old Testament, you find that Makkah is mentioned there. In it, a clear signs. It is the place of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Who enters it is safe. And pilgrimage to the house is a duty which men owe to Allah. Whoever can find a way to it. Again, it's a duty, but whoever can find a way to it. If for some reason you cannot do it, you may be ill, you may be banned from going there. then Allah is forgiving and merciful. Whoever disbelieves, surely Allah is above the need of the world. And we carry on in chapter 5. Fulfill the obligations. Again, do your duty. The cattle quadrupeds are allowed to you except that which is recited to you, not violating the prohibition against game when you're on pilgrimage. And then, O you believe, violate not the signs of Allah, nor the sacred month, nor the offerings, nor the victims with garlands, nor those repairing to the sacred house seeking to grace the pleasure of their Lord. And when you're free from pilgrimage obligations, then hunt. Let not hatred of a people because they hindered you from the sacred mosque incite you to transgress. You're talking about duty. And God says, this is referring to the Quraysh. Muslims had to flee Makkah to save their lives. And they were not allowed back in for any reason. Even when the Holy Prophet Muhammad tried to go for a pilgrimage one year, he was barred. And listen to this word. Let not hatred of a people because they stop you from entering the sacred house incite you to transgress. You do the right thing. This is your duty. Goes on. Help one another in righteousness and piety, and help not one another in sin and aggression. Keep your duty to it. Hajj is all about keeping your duty to God and to man. And further on, O you who believe, Allah will certainly try you in respect of some game which your hands and your lances can reach, that Allah may know who fears Him in secret. And I at some point, in these verses also, Hajj is mentioned. You can see lawful to you, etc., is a provision, and the game of the land is forbidden to you as long as you are on pilgrimage. Keep your duty to it. So, here it is. Yes. O you who believe, kill not game, etc., from the cattle, as two just persons among you judge, as an offering to be brought to the Kaaba, or the expiation thereof is the feeding of the poor, and so on. And then in Surah Tawbah, there are 4 months, and know that you cannot escape Allah. And then it is again that a year consists of 12 months, and there are sacred months in which no killing should take place. He created heavens and earth. Of these are 4 sacred. That the right religion, so wrong not yourselves therein. So basically, unless you're attacked, do not fight in those 4 months. And then, of course, you have the chapter called Hajj, which specifically says, we point you to Abraham the place of the house. So God told him where to build this house, saying, associate no one with me, purify my house. And those who make circuits and stand to pray and bow and prostrate, pro- and proclaim to men the pilgrimage, they will come to you on foot and on every lean camel coming from remote paths, which now happens. Well, it always happened, but United States and Australia and New Zealand and Fiji and so on were not known in those days, or South America. But people do literally go there from all corners of the world, that they may witness benefits provided for them. Mention the name of Allah on appointed days, and let them accomplish their needful acts of cleansing, and let them fulfill their vows and go round the ancient house. And that is that you must spiritually and physically cleanse yourself. This is why when you go for Hajj, you shorn yourself of all worldly things. Two simple feats. So no one can tell who's rich, who's poor. You are trying to, in those days, fully dedicate yourself to Allah. Whoever respects the sacred ordinances of Allah, again, going back to doing your duty. So shun the filth of the idols and shun false words. What does that mean? That means that you run after people of this world. Idols might be the ones made of stone. But if you hanker after wealth and position and power and so on, and you try and curry favor with people of this world to get those, then they are your idols as well. And the Holy Quran calls it filth. Shun the filth of the idols and shun false words. Again, duty. Be upright for Allah. Don't associate anyone with him. And that goes back to the last verse of worshipping things of this world. It can be anything. You may worship the people you love, so that you, for their sake, you do wrong things. But here it says, be upright for Allah. Don't associate anyone with him. And so it goes on. Whoever respects the ordinances of Allah, this is surely from the piety of hearts. So this is even before going. Therein are benefits for you for a term appointed. Then their place of sacrifice is the ancient house. And for every nation we appointed acts of devotion. So your God is one God. Therefore, to him should you submit and give good news to the humble, whose hearts tremble when Allah is mentioned. That should be your state of mind when you go to Hajj. And who are patient in their afflictions, and they keep up prayer and spend out of what we have given. And the camels, we have made them a sign appointed by Allah. So mention the name of Allah on them, standing in a row. And when they fall down on their sides, eat of them, etc. But the point I want to get to is verse 37. When you make the sacrifice, not their flesh nor their blood reaches Allah, but to Him is acceptable observance of duty on your part. This has made them this has made them subservient to you, that you may magnify Allah for guiding you aright and give good news to those who do good to others. After all of that, it ends by saying that you engage in rituals, but they're meaningless without substance. You do the sacrifice, you spend a lot of money, but it's not the animal's flesh or blood that reaches Allah, but observance of duty. And I said to you, the constant theme throughout is duty to Allah, duty to Allah. This is a warning to Muslims. Don't do what they're actually doing, and that is make Hajj a kind of cleansing when they've deliberately been neglectful of their duty by lying and cheating and whatever else. And the last chapter where this is mentioned is about the Holy Prophet's vision, chapter Al-Fatah, chapter 48, verses 27 and 28. Allah fulfilled the vision of His messenger with truth. You shall certainly enter the sacred mosque, if Allah pleases, in security, your heads shaved and hair cut short, not fading. But He knows what you know not. So He has ordained a near victory before that. He it is who has sent His messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth, that He may make it prevail over all religions. And Allah is enough for it. So this refers to the vision of the Holy Prophet Muhammad about going back to Mecca and performing that. But this applies to all of us. Those of us who are having difficulties going to Mecca, difficulties performing the Hajj. God says, if you are sincere, if your heart truly desires it, then it will happen. Even if we don't go there physically, we may do it spiritually. And the last verse, that is, if we struggle and we try, which is a message of Hajj, especially in those days, but even now, there are so many difficulties that you have to face to get to Mecca, to perform the Hajj. These days, coronavirus, COVID-19, and even in ordinary days, travel difficulties, accommodation difficulties, age, illnesses, and so on. But God says that the true teaching of Islam, the true message of Islam, it shall prevail, and it is prevailing. There were times when nations would fight each other and kill each other. Now, that is coming to an end, slowly. People talk and negotiate and so on. And this is all a part of Islam prevailing over other religions. We started this series of lessons in Islam about fundamentals of Islam, what's called pillars of Islam. So today we finished um, um, our lessons about Hajj. As I said, the last 4 lessons have been about Hajj. We've tried to go through the history of Kaaba, the history of Hajj, etc. Hajj being mentioned in the Old Testament, and today mention of Hajj and its message and its purpose from the Holy Quran itself. So our next broadcast is tomorrow at 9 a.m. It's Call of the Messiah. From 9 to 9:30 it is in Urdu, and from 9:30 to 10 o'clock it is in English. Tomorrow's topic is our beliefs, and I will give quotations from the books of the promised Messiah to show you what he believed and what we believe. Until we meet again, I pray that Allah keeps all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, goodbye.